everyone, Arwen here, and welcome to this week's weekly oracle card reading for February 22nd through the 29th. And this week I'm using Archangel Power Tarot Cards by Doreen and Radeigh Valentine. And forgive me if I don't sound very well today. I've been sick for several days. That's okay. We're gonna have this week's reading anyways. So I really like these cards. I just got them not too long ago, and I really like the energy in them. They really do have that lion-like power energy. So let's go ahead and do the first part of the week. And the card is 3 of Michael. Release the past. You'll grow from this situation. Time heals all wounds. And as you can see, Archangel Michael is holding this woman, and she has her head on his chest. Okay. One of the things that I'm feeling in this card is grief, right? It feels very heavy to me. And it feels like any sort of like grief that you've had, or something that didn't work out that made you feel really sad, right? Like your mind always goes to that thing. And maybe it's even part of your story, right? Like every time you think about that part of your life, you're like, well, this happened, and then that happened, and then that happened, and then it got worse, and then I was so sad, and then da da da, and you know, on and on this goes, right? Well, what I'm kind of hearing is like, it's time to release that past. It's time to release that story. It's time to release that grief. It's time to release that energy from the body. So when something happens that affects us, we'll not only go over and over and loop with our brain, with our thoughts, but we'll kind of like retain that memory in our cells, in our emotional body, and sometimes it even gets trapped in our physical body, like in our muscles and stuff. And kind of what I'm hearing is that it's really time to let that go. And Archangel Michael is the angel to help you let that go. So he can cut cords and release and clear any sort of like emotional disturbance or things that don't need to be there, right? So as I said earlier, you know, whatever story that you tell over and over again, that the story of rejection, the story of pain, the story of, you know, fill in the blank, whatever it was that came into your head, that is what Archangel Michael can help you release this week if you choose. Okay? So a lot of times I will just sit down and I'll be, you know, centered within myself, and I'll ask Archangel Michael to please release me from a certain situation. I'll ask him to release me from a certain like pattern that I'm doing. I'll ask him to, you know, remove the constant emotional loop or something to the nature of that, and I ask him to cut cords with that and to allow that to transform and to really just allow something new to come in, right? So wash away, vacuum away the old, allow it to release so that I can allow something new to come in. Okay? So the next card is 6 of Michael. This is fun. It's the light at the end of the tunnel. Breathe a sigh of relief and make new plans. Relocation or travel. Okay, and he's on a boat in the sky with a dog. Looks like a Sheltie. Okay. This boat reminds me a little bit of a Viking boat, just a smidge. So what I feel about the boat is power. Yeah, it really means power, like you have the power to move, you have the power to make things different, you have the power, right? So a lot of times when we're stuck in grief, we feel like we're powerless, right? And so, but what I'm getting from this card is power, you know what I mean? And so I feel like the dog means like you're like consciousness, like consciously you're on board, right? So it feels to me like the dog is representing more of your ego, and your conscious self is on board with this. So your experience becomes one of, you feel like you're more powerful, right? You feel like you have more choices and abilities. And in this card, the storm is in the past, and Archangel Michael is with you on the boat. So he is your ally in this situation, and he can very much help you move through it. And something that caught my eye on the bottom of the card is breathe. Okay, this card felt a lot like grief. This one feels a lot like, right, like being able to just let it go. All right, this boat is also floating off the water, so there's a sense of like lightness and a sense of like air and expansion, okay? And maybe you can do something that you don't think that you can do, because boats don't actually float off the water like that. So what that's meaning to me is you'll have a completely new perspective. Oh, I can do this, and I didn't think I could do this, okay? Assuming that you follow the advice of the first card, which is ask Archangel Michael to release you from your pattern, your story, your grief, and all that, okay? Now, the third card for the weekend is Knight of Michael. We got 3 Michael cards. That's fun. And my deck is very shuffled. Alright, Knight of Michael. Strong, committed, intellectual, diligent. Time to move quickly. Choose logic over emotion. Sudden changes. What I'm feeling from this card is you will be on your way, right? It almost feels like new mission, new quest, new adventure, right? Just being able to start something new that you wanted to do. So a lot of times, if you were a knight, you would get all suited up and you would go because you're like, oh, I have this thing to do, I'm going to go do that. So whatever it is that you've been feeling like you can't do, or you feel like you're being inhibited from doing, having Archangel Michael release you from the past, the story, the grief, allows you to have a new perspective on things so that you feel free. Consciously you feel like you can move on and you can make new choices and you feel powerful. Then you'll be able to have the freedom to go on your quest and do the new thing that you are wanting to do. And so you can feel more free, more confident, and then move on to the next stage of the thing that would be helpful for you. Okay? If you do have a Doreen Virtues Angel Therapy Handbook, that is the one where she talks about cord cutting and things of that nature, and it's a really good book. It's one of my favorite ones. I love it, and it's extremely helpful in my life. Making the choice to cut cords to unhealthy people, situations, and things helped me immensely and really allowed me to move to a different place, so I highly recommend it. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's reading, and I will see you all next week. Bye.